I think the real question is we have to ask ourselves is, what do we get out of staying stuck? Because chaos means that we kind of have an excuse to not get stuff done. And I'm sure a lot of women listening to this go, oh, I deliver for my clients. It's all the rest of the stuff that never quite gets done.
Hi, and welcome to the Her Business podcast. I'm Susie Daphnis. I'm your host. I'm also the CEO at Her Business, and I'd love for you to do something before we start this episode. Now, I'm excited for us to dive in, but first, bring up your calendar if you're somewhere where you can have a look at it, and tell me whether you're using Apple's calendar app or maybe Google Calendar or a pen and paper kind of calendar person. How chaotic does your calendar look? If you're like me and most business owners, that thing is packed full with commitments. There are meetings, there are projects, deep work hours, client deliverables, deadlines, content production, personal appointments, everything under the sun. I know that's how my calendar often looks, and I cram everything in there because, frankly, if it's not on my calendar, it's probably not going to get done. That is just a fact of life for many of us. But today, you're going to learn a different system. And it blew my mind, and it may just blow your mind too. Now, I want to introduce you to my very special guest. She's a dear friend of mine. She's been part of Her Business for many, many years, and she is just a phenomenal human being. Her name is Belinda Weaver. She's the CEO of Copywriting Matters. And she started her copywriting business in 2008 and has since gone on to work with incredible clients all over the world. Now she helps beginner copywriters start, build, and thrive in their very own copywriting businesses. She's a coach, she's a mentor, she's an incredible trainer, and she's a messaging genius. But today we're not talking about copy. Belinda's going to be showing us her really innovative project management system. And she's giving you the exact AI prompts and resources to use so that you can create this system right inside of your business. Like I said, my mind was blown. I cannot wait for you to try out her system, which, by the way, she's giving Her Business listeners access to for free as a gift. She's that kind of gal. So more details on that soon. For now, please welcome to the show, Belinda Weaver. Hey, Belinda. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Susie. It's so great to be here.
I'm so excited to have this conversation for you. Now, I've known you for a number of years. We've known each other, and you're one of my favorite people. Share with us a little bit about the work you do and how you came to build your business, Copywriting Matters, into the awesome, successful business it is today.
I'd love to. So I'm a copywriter and I'm a copy coach. I actually started my business in 2009, so 100 years ago. And I started it when I discovered copywriting was actually a thing. I was completely unaware of that. And I wrote copy for clients, and that morphed into more copywriters asking me about how I created my business and how I run my business. So that's how my coaching side grew. And it's been such a rewarding part of my business, kind of helping copywriters launch their own copywriting careers and create businesses that they really love to work in. So, I've got these two sides of my business. I love writing and I love helping writers. And it's been 15 years now of experimentation and evolution, and I still love writing copy.
Yeah, and I know that you have helped, as you said, copywriters, but also, you've worked with us on copy, and you're doing some, not a lot, but you are taking a few clients now where you're actually working with them on their messaging, and let's make sure to mention that before we finish up today.
Thank you. It's nice to write about other people who aren't me again.
Yeah. I get it. Yesterday we were at an event and I wanted to take a photo of the group, and I gave my phone to my assistant Robin, and she turned it off. She went, "Susie's phone is in selfie mode." I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm always kind of having to take a photo of myself and put some coffee together."
Welcome to entrepreneurship.
Now, today we're not talking about copy so much, but we are talking about project management. And you're going to be sharing an incredible system that you created, and also sharing that system with us, which is very generous of you. Now, I feel like project management is something I love. I'm a natural at it. I love to get into it and work out the details, but it's not a sexy topic for everybody and it's not fun for everybody. But it is so essential to executing on projects, no matter what your industry, your business size, your niche. So before you came across this new game-changing method, what did you typically do? How did you approach project planning?
So, like you, I kind of love project planning. I'm a builder, so I kind of love jumping into the details. I love the idea of mapping out a plan with a wall planner and new pens and coloured tape. But it gets honestly very time consuming. And especially for copywriting projects, you have to break the overall scope down into smaller tasks and actions, and you have to allocate time to each action. Because for me, most of the listeners will get this too, billable work, you need to be able to compare how long you spent versus how long you quoted for. And so that whole process, while it can be really enjoyable with some nice music and a cup of tea, is really time consuming. And when you are doing billable work, the more time it takes, you're not getting paid for that. And then I'd have a ClickUp task where I manage all my projects. So I would have to take it from paper into ClickUp, and then I would take it from ClickUp into my calendar where I would be sort of blocking off work zones, because for me, if it's not in my calendar, it's not happening.
Doesn't happen. I don't know. Now, did ClickUp talk to your calendar? No. It was a manual transfer. Got it.
Just actually manually taking everything from a document to ClickUp into my calendar. And so it's a lot of time. And the same for business building projects. It'd have to have the same breakdown and the same time allocation. And, in all these things, it can be really tempting to have like one line item on our to-do list or our calendar. And that's actually 17 small tasks. And I think that's where we lose track of how long things actually take. And I know it's the same for copywriters. I'm sure it's the same for everyone listening. That phrase, it always takes so much longer than I think.
Yes.
And it's that mistake in project planning.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and it's especially important, it's kind of a side note, when you're training up someone new, one line item is 17 things. And so that's where systems and procedures and how much you can automate or systemize become so important in bringing your team up. So let's dive into this new approach to project management. Can you walk us through how it works, how you came up with it? Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, I told you what I did manually, where it was that process of taking a goal or a project and breaking it down into smaller tasks, allocating the time, and then getting it into project management systems. What I've been doing is using ChatGPT for lots of basically that breakdown of parts. And I use ChatGPT in a lot of parts of my business. And I'm sure lots of listeners have heard this quite a bit. But one of the things I really lean into is workflow and systems, because I want to make sure I have the time and brain space for the part of copywriting that I love, which is writing. So any place I can kind of speed up the bits that get me to the writing, I'm here for it. Right. And so I broke the task down into 3 parts, and I got ChatGPT to help me. And what it meant was I didn't forget any parts of the project. I wanted to keep the project on track for me and my client without burnout. And we were kind of 2 different people. And so that was an interesting nuance that I put into ChatGPT, that I got to change the way I do project planning. And I also got to track my time and have a really detailed calendar. So, part 1 was coming up with a detailed scope with times. Part 2 was creating a week-by-week project plan with dates. And part 3 was actually getting ChatGPT to create a calendar file that I just loaded up into Gmail that actually fit the days and times that I was working on the project. And that, to me, was the real game changer. So I had a detail-oriented week-by-week plan with dates that was in my calendar that matched with ClickUp. it was amazing.
I'm still trying to get my head around it, and so I'm keen to check it out. And as you're listening, know that Belinda's going to give us access to the process so we can try it out. So I've got Project A. So now Project A is in your calendar with the time blocked out, with the task indicated. And so I've got Project B. Now, do I pull that in as well? And now I can see where I have clashes? Or, yes.
Exactly right. And the great thing about having it, I mean, calendar blocking works brilliantly if it works for you. And I just want to recognize that a lot of people's brains work very differently. And so this is a process that you always want to adapt for how you work. But for me, I love to be able to look at my calendar and see where there are spaces. Yeah. And so having client billable work booked out in my calendar each week instantly let me understand that I was busy and that I could not say yes to more things. And so for me, that's the really important part of having it in your calendar. But I also wanted to know exactly what I should be working on when I sat down to work.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the prompt too.
Mistake I see people make all the time is we have, especially like we are now as we're recording, we're coming to the end of the year, and as people look out, we're very ambitious about what we think we can achieve in a 90-day period, and we load up the projects. But until we can see them, like what does this look like on a week-by-week basis? You know, is there any white space left for thinking or putting my CEO hat on, or is it all, you know, already stacked to full? And so this would allow you, because I kind of, if it's not in my calendar, it really doesn't happen. And so I'm excited to do that and to see how you're using ChatGPT. And so it's given you a file, I assume, that then you import it into Google. So without getting too techie, because I know a lot of us aren't techie, how difficult was that piece?
Well, that was actually the easiest piece. The challenging piece was the two parts that came before that. So, and this is the important part of planning. So what I did is I gave ChatGPT the project scope that I had agreed with my client, and this would absolutely work with business goals as well. And I got it to I asked it to help me break down the goal, the scope, into smaller tasks to make sure I was understanding how much work was involved. I also got it to help me estimate the time by telling it to pull from industry standards for copywriting, but also making sure it understood that I'm a very experienced copywriter, which is part of the context you have to give a great AI prompt. And so I wanted it to tell me what it thought all the tasks should take, and then I reviewed that.
Right. And so because you're experienced, you could tell if it was, you know.
Yeah, and there were some of the things where I was like, that's not a 2-hour task, that's an 8-hour task, and vice versa as well. So there was this iterative process. I gave it the scope. I said, let's break this down into tasks and assign estimated timeframes to complete each task. So that was the first part. And I was happy to find out that it was actually pretty spot on. So there wasn't a lot of revision work, but it's important, I found, when working with AI tools, not to overload it with instructions. So that was the first part. And then the second part was breaking it into a week-by-week plan. And the core instruction was build an internal project plan showing tasks, estimated timeframes, and dependencies. And I said the goal is actually to run this project so that I don't burn out, my client doesn't get overwhelmed, and ultimately has a 5-star experience working with me. And the other part of this is giving it constraints. I said, I'm only working 2 days a week on this. I've got to be finished by 3 p.m. I've got to go and pick up the kids from the bus. It's got to start on October the 12th. And so there was lots of things I told it we had to work within, including how I love to work. I also told it that my client's a talker, a verbal processor, and loves to have meetings. And I do not like to have meetings. So that's part of the context where I said, this is how I work. This is how my client works. We need to make sure the deliverables and the workflow not only is respectful of our time and energy, but it doesn't drag out. So I put all this information
So good.
in, and then all of a sudden I have a week by week plan that fits my 2 days a week, that fits my energy flow, that ChatGPT batched up the tasks for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it had dates, dependencies, risks, and contingencies as well. And anyone who loves project planning, that's your love language, to identify the risks of the projects and figure out where it could possibly go wrong and plan around it. And so that was the second part. And then I asked it to create a file. So it's a lot. So a lot of people might be listening going, oh my God, I can't even. But the idea is when you're asking for a big thing, when you're doing it yourself, imagine training someone on how to plan. You would break it down into chunks of tasks. And that's what you have to do with ChatGPT as well.
But now you've got it, and you might have a similar project and, 2/3 or 3/4 of the prompt is already done.
100%.
Yeah. And it's fantastic because it's helping you with time management and not just project management. And so how has your workflow changed? You sort of mentioned like you can now see where the gaps are. Is there anything else that's changed about how you approach your work each day?
Well, one thing I like to do with anything is I like to have a list from Boss Belinda on what I need to do. And because what it means is I don't quickly check social media, or I tend not to respond to what's in my inbox. When I have a very clear idea of what it is I'm supposed to be working on, I get it done. And that's when I start hearing like, oh my gosh, how do you get so much done? This is how, having a really clear idea of what it is I should be working on. And so what this did, especially with the calendar part, I had the meeting request in my calendar, but not just work on the project. It was, this is exactly what you are doing today. Yeah. And the best part was when I got it done, I didn't worry about the project. I didn't think, oh, I have to work in the evening, I have to get ahead, there's so much to do, because this was actually a 7 to 8 week project with multiple deliverables. And it's really easy to start feeling overwhelmed and think, oh, I've got a spare 5 minutes. I need to be doing things all the time. It was so good to knock off and be done.
It doesn't leak into the areas where you don't want things. So if we just have, my calendar, is here, and if I don't get it done then, I can dig into my Fridays where I normally do my CEO day or I spend with my aging mum or whatever, and it can leak. But here it's already considered, like these are the days, it needs to be finished by this day, all the great things of a project. And so you just have so much more control over your calendar. I love it.
I wasn't burned out, and it felt really easy. I wasn't burned out. It felt really easy. The project got delivered on schedule. It was amazing. It just felt really good to have
I love that you're sharing it. I love that you're sharing it, because so many of us know that project management and really getting our head around our projects is really going to help us. It's going to take the overwhelm away. It's going to allow us to use our time wisely. Why do you think we still resist?
This is such a good question, because I think it goes back to us staying stuck. Like we resist. I think the real question is we have to ask ourselves is, what do we get out of staying stuck? Because chaos means that we kind of have an excuse to not get stuff done. And I'm sure a lot of women listening to this go, oh, I deliver for my clients. It's all the rest of the stuff that never quite gets done. And that's why this planning prompt, I use it for my own business building goals as well. And I think also a plan that doesn't reflect how much actual work is involved also sets us up for failure.
Yeah.
And the juicy bit is, if we plan it out well, we're removing the blocks to getting it done, and then we have to do it.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. And that can be a little intimidating if we're really honest.
Now, I am a big advocate for scheduling CEO hours or clear weeks in my calendar. And, it doesn't always go to plan, but it's in there. And so baking in that white space in your system, into your calendar, I think is so essential. And I think that's what that's given you. It's like you can determine where you want that white space to be, or you can say, you know what, not enough white space next month. What needs to happen? Do I even say yes to the next job, or do I need to stop doing something else? Because like you said, we don't want to be working against ourselves by saying yes. If there just literally isn't the space and the capacity, or I can look at it and go, oh, you know what, I need to bring on for you a junior copywriter and give that to them, and I'm going to, subcontract that work out. Talk to me about how you think about white space. You probably don't have a lot like me, but it's great when it's there.
Well, I think this white space is, I think of it almost like protected space.
Yes.
And I love the clear weeks. I got that from you, this idea that once you do something big, and I did it after this client project, I knew after 8 weeks of consistently obsessing over this client, and I loved every minute of it, I went, this week, nothing big is happening. And I actually scheduled that time in. And I think also the protected space for me is usually my evenings and at least a chunk of the weekend. And I just think it's really important that we put our business first. We serve our business first, because if we don't have a business, we can't serve anyone else. And put that into our protected zones.
I love that, and I love how you're calling it protected zones, because I feel that's exactly what we need to do. We need to protect our precious time, that white space. Now, I want to go back to something you said. You use this process for an 8-week program. Now you're using it for your business building projects. How have you adapted the prompt, or what does that look like to use it for business building? Can you take us behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for this, when I first did my client project, and I want to share it was a very iterative process. Like, I asked ChatGPT a question and I was like, oh, that's not really what I want. And then I adapted it and I evolved it. And that's a really important part of the process. What I'm going to be doing, and what I have done for my business building goals for my CEO zone, is instead of a client scope for a project, I'm saying something like, I would like to reboot my YouTube filming, because I stopped that in 2024 and I would like to do it. So I'm asking myself, well, how can I create a schedule that doesn't burn me out, that gets it done? And again, create the kind of calendar appointments where one week I'm maybe researching topics and writing a script. The next week I'm filming. The next week I'm editing. So I'm always really clear on what I'm doing to get my business growth activities happening. And so adapting the prompt for me, instead of the scope of the client project, I'm starting off saying, this is my goal. I want to add regular films to my, movies. How old am I? Regular videos to my YouTube channel, but I need to make sure it doesn't burn me out. And that's how I'm starting the conversation with ChatGPT to create a process.
I love it, because I know that consistency is what gets things done. But if it doesn't find its way into your schedule, then that's going to be time that you're doom scrolling, or that you're doing things that are not moving the needle in the areas that, might make the big change for you. So for you, it might be, getting back to that YouTube channel makes something possible for you, and I know for me, ensuring that I have a production day a month where I'm just creating content, or batch creating my podcast, so that I'm not doing it in bits and pieces, which sort of suck up more time than if I'm, organised around it. But it can be anything. It could be chipping away at that book, that you want to write, or whatever it is.
Creating a lead magnet. Creating a content schedule, whatever that is.
Yeah,
and I find it things that people go, oh, I wish I had more time for that, or it's on my list.
Yeah.
We've got to take it off the list, and we've got to make a plan. And for me, project planning was such a big task that I went, oh, I don't really have time for that.
Yeah.
Well,
systems and procedures,
so
right? Yeah. Getting our business systemized, writing role descriptions, like anything that is a project that it's not finding its way into your schedule. This can allow you to work on those business building things alongside the delivering and the usual, stuff that we do.
Yeah.
Some of our listeners who aren't familiar with AI, or maybe they're not using ChatGPT, which, they'll want to do in order to do this, how can they start with this in a small way?
So I think if you're AI curious, I would say choose choose something that you'd like to do and start talking to AI like ChatGPT as if you'd hired a junior planner. So you tell them what you wanted. I mean, I think one of the key things that everyone needs to know about using AI is you need to set up your AI so it knows who you are and what you do and who you serve, and then you will get much better responses. But it's this idea of like sitting down and going, this is what I need to get done. And you can actually ask AI tools to help you tell the AI tool. I often use ChatGPT to build the prompt I need to tell ChatGPT to do the thing. So you can say, this is what I'd like to plan out this project. This is the kind of time frame I'm thinking. Can you help me plan it out? Ask me questions to give you the information you need to make this a plan, and treat it like a conversation, and you'll get much further than you thought you would. It can be a really pleasant experience.
It's fun. I think it's fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you can't get it wrong. You can keep coaching it till it gives you what you want. And the more we practice our prompts, the easier it becomes. Like, I'm so much faster now at getting what I want out of AI because I've just gotten. It knows me better because I've inputted so much content, but also I just gotten better at asking questions. Now, it's freed up some of your time, or it's allowed you to be more productive. What do you feel like this system has allowed you to accomplish?
For this particular copywriting project, as I mentioned, it was so nice to just wrap up at the end of the day feeling like I'd done everything that I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Rather than that feeling of like always chasing the next thing. And I wasn't tempted to work in the evenings or once the kids got home. So that actually created a lightness of mind, which I haven't always had on such big projects. And anyone who does kind of big projects in any context knows that it can be a little all-consuming. And I didn't get that with this project. And so I always talk about making sure that you have a business that loves you back, which means being able to switch off from it. But when you really love what you do, it can feel a little difficult. So what I got was this, as I said, this lightness of mind that said, I've done everything that I needed to. I've moved this forward so I can go and relax.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it. Especially not eating into your evenings.
Because and we all know that feeling of like part of your brain still maybe writing the content plan or still maybe responding to emails or, it's hard to stop spinning all the plates. And so that's what I loved. I loved that the project felt easy. The client was ecstatic. Everything happened as it should have been. And I felt relaxed.
I love it. And what I love is that you are making this work available to us. So over on our show notes page, and I'll mention where people can find the show notes in just a moment, you're going to give us access to a Google Doc, which people can copy, and tell us what is on there just so people know what to expect.
Yeah, so it's a 3-part prompt. And what I've actually done is I've recorded a little video walkthrough. I mean, awesome. It's not very polished, but it's exactly how I used it. So I've put some comments in there on how to adapt it. I've done a little video walkthrough, and it's basically one of those things. You take part 1, you do it until it works, that you've got the output that you want. You put the output in part 2, and then you put the part 2 output into part 3. And I just found it so useful that I want to make it available so more people can get past the planning stage and into the doing.
I love it. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, I will give you the details for where to find those show notes. Now, Belinda, you've helped a number of her business members with their copy. You've worked with us. You've even worked with clients of our members. But I know for the longest time you weren't actually writing copy. Your dedication was totally to supporting your members who are copywriters and growing their businesses. But I know now you have made yourself available because, as you told us, you love writing a few times a month to work with business owners on their messaging. And so what you're making available to us today is something called a First Impressions audit. So
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about this idea of first impressions?
Yeah. So one of the things we're often told is you only have one shot to make a great first impression. And that is kind of true. But the nuance of that is that when we make a first impression, maybe with a social post or an opt-in page or a home page or however a client first sees us, that first impression can actually compound with every single other touch point. And we've all heard this idea of like, it takes, I think it's now 17 touch points.
Oh, 17.
I think it seems to be going up all the time. But basically, we have a trust vacuum right now where we need to have more touch points with the business before we'll take action. And so it's really important to not only make sure your first impression is a good one, but that all the touch points that happen after that don't erode the impression that you've created. They do, in fact, compound. And so the first impressions audit is a free, just an audit of the first impression you're creating with your business. And so you just get my eyes on your marketing. I'll record a quick video to say, here are a couple of ways that you could boost trust, elevate your messaging, and move people forward in the first impression that you're making.
I'm excited. Wow.
Well,
okay.
It's exciting for me as well because I know that feeling of getting so deep in the weeds of your business. You write the homepage, you write the opt-in page, and you move on with your life because you've got so many other things to do, and you kind of don't go back and understand all the leaking points of that trust and credibility and voice.
I love it. And this is your genius, and I'm so excited. So we're going to put a link to the resource that we've been talking about, the AI resource for project management. We are going to put a link to this audit on first impressions. Thank you so much. This show is for women who want to play by their own rules. The tagline for the show is Your Business, Your Rules. And I feel that's really fitting for today's topic. You saw a problem in your business and you created your own rules about how to fix that problem. So I'd love to know, in your business, what does playing by your rules mean? And how has that idea, which I believe it has, informed how you operate your business? What does it mean to work by your rules?
Oh, I have to admit, I'm such a rule follower. Such a rule follower. I love the opportunity to get blueprints from professionals and experts with more experience from me. But I think you get to a point in your career, in your business, where the rules and the advice don't really fit you anymore. And it's really easy to think I used to think it was a me problem. That I was like, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong because the rules that I'm learning or the blueprint that I got, it's not really working for me. And so what I'm doing now, because I've been doing it for 15 years, I'm starting to really listen to my voice more and more. And sometimes that means colouring outside the lines and doing something a bit different. And rather than pulling away from that moment, I really am starting to lean in hard. It could be my 40-something-year-old energy as well.
I love what you're saying there, because I think there are periods in our business, especially when we're just starting out, where we really want to lean into mentors and coaches and courses and other experts, as you said. And then as we gain our own experience, I think it's smart to start leaning on our own knowing and riding that wave for a while. And then we want to do something different. Maybe we want to sell the business, or we want to grow it in a different way, or we want to shut it down, or we want to just make a drastic change, or bring on a new skill. Then I think, okay, follow someone who's done it well. Go back into that rule following. Show me how it's done. Give me all the steps. Walk me through it until I have a level of confidence, and then off I go, making my own rules. There's a great online marketer and friend who used to say, emulate before you innovate. And I think there's wisdom in that. It's like, do it prescriptively, follow the blueprint, follow the template. And then when you have the competence, then innovate, then go for it, then create your own rules. And I think that's what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just giving myself permission to listen to myself, to go, actually, I think it's time that I did it my way, and my way's okay.
Yeah, and you're pretty smart, so you listen to yourself.
Thank you.
She has some awesome things to say. Belinda, is there anything you want to leave us with?
I think it's just one thing about using AI, because I know it can still feel quite new. Like some of us have been using it quite a lot. And it's very new for a lot of people. And I think if you're concerned about, is it taking over, or is it rotting our brain and stuff like that, it's just this idea that if you can use tools to free up the parts of your workflow that are quite time consuming, you can actually have more time and brain space to do the parts of the work that you love. And for me, that's writing. And so I think that's, look at which parts you might give someone else to do, and ask yourself, is there a tool that could do this? And I think staying in touch with what is possible with these tools can really open your eyes to what you can do. And I love staying in touch with what's happening with AI, because I hear what someone's doing and I'm like, that's a good idea. That's how I found out about the ICS file. I was like, I didn't know I could do that. And so just think about which parts are your favorite parts. Protect those parts. You have permission to do that. And then look at getting help with the other parts.
You just mentioned a term we hadn't mentioned earlier, and that was the ICS file. And I just want to, for the non-techie people, that is the file that, tell us what that is real quick.
It's basically a calendar file that you can import into your calendar. So it's a file called and then it's .ics. And what used to happen before we had lovely calendar tools is you would have to download a calendar file and then upload it to your calendar. Now we can subscribe to calendars, and that's what's happening in the background. But what happened was, when I used this prompt, I said, now create an ICS file, and it gave me a downloadable link, and I downloaded that to my computer. And then I opened up my Gmail calendar and I said, import this file. And it imported in the name of the meeting, I'm doing air quotes, the description in which I said, these are all the things I have to get done today, and the start time and the end time. So it's just a file that you can import into your calendar, and that's how you get things into your calendar. Super easy.
So good. And the details of all of that are going to be in the resource that Belinda's making available. Head on over to, actually, I can tell you where it is. Head on over to herbusiness.com/337. herbusiness.com/337 to get a summary of this episode and to get the 2 resources that Belinda is making available. Belinda, thank you so much for joining me.
It was my pleasure. I'm so, it's 2 planning nerds talking about planning.
I know. Watch out, New Year.
100%. I got big plans.
I hope you found that as interesting as I did. And I want to circle back to something Belinda said that was on the nose about project planning. She said that everyone listening likely nails it with their client delivery because we prioritize that outward-facing work, right? We're business owners after all. But when it comes to working on your business, coming up with new initiatives, or finally getting that course finished that you've been wanting to put out in the world, or working on that book, or following through with the fabulous webinar idea you had, or making time to reboot your YouTube channel, as Belinda said she's doing, that work gets pushed off. When that stuff is what really moves the needle in our businesses, but perhaps it's not getting on our calendar, so it's not getting done. But this is the stuff that changes your revenue. It's the stuff that gets more leads coming your way. It's the stuff that forms the core offerings of any business, because it's the inward-facing, working on the business work that makes a difference, right? But the deliverables to a client, we get them done. What we don't get done is necessarily the things that are going to grow our business. And as Belinda said, it keeps us stuck. And we don't get anything out of staying stuck. So I encourage you to not just use Belinda's system for the client-facing projects that you're working on. In fact, you might have a system already for that you use, great, but try it for your projects, your personal projects, your big business building goals. Right now inside of Her Business, it is planning month, and we are deeply focused on giving our members resources to plan a year where they have a step-by-step plan rolled out of what they're going to work on and when, so that the year is not hijacked by urgent but not important things. And I think it's an incredible system that Belinda's created here. And I'm so thankful to her for coming on the podcast today, sharing it with you and the other business owners who are listening. But there are two things waiting for you over on the show notes page. The first is the gift from Belinda. Now, this is a Google Doc that she's created, and inside that document, she's outlined parts 1, 2, and 3 of this process with examples, with tips, and with a walkthrough video that she's filmed. The other resource you'll find in the show notes is Belinda's first impression audit. If your website isn't bringing in clients, your welcome emails or lead magnets aren't doing what they need to do, then Belinda's going to take a look at your copy and share a personalized video to show what's working and what is not. I can't believe she's offering this for free, so I highly, highly encourage you to go check that out. And of course, all of Belinda's information and links will be over on the show notes page as well, and you'll find that at herbusiness.com/337. Now, a couple of episodes ago, I was talking about how to build a business plan for 2026 that doesn't burn you out. And today's episode really supports that idea. When we can use technology to leverage us, we get back more of our time and we avoid burnout. Something that's a real issue, especially towards the end of the year where we may feel pretty spent. And one of our listeners, Claire Harrison of Harrison HR, she took a listen to that episode. Now, Claire's business is a flourishing HR consultancy business that she started in 2009 because she's got a really passionate belief that inspiring leaders and superstar employees are the key success factor to any organisation, and I 100% agree. And she had a listen and she had few words to say, but they were powerful. She said, loved listening to this, Susie Daphnis. She also went on to very kindly say, you are a wealth of practical knowledge for female business owners. Thank you, in uppercase letters. So Claire, thank you so much for listening, and I'm glad you enjoyed that episode. And what I will do is I will link to that episode called How to Build a Business Plan for 2026 That Doesn't Burn You Out over on the show notes page with Belinda's information. And so all that's going to be at herbusiness.com/337. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts, or you can shoot me a direct message on Instagram. You'll find us at herbusiness on Instagram, and we are posting daily, I believe, maybe twice a day some days, just business tips and ideas and helping you make progress in your business. So once again, show notes pages are at herbusiness.com/337. You'll also find a summary of today's episode and other links and resources that we've discussed, and of course, the 2 gifts from Belinda. If you are new to the show, welcome, subscribe wherever you're listening, and join me next time for more inspiring stories and lessons from successful entrepreneurs. We'll see you next week right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.